Okay, another extraordinarily significant and wildly underreported story here from the media. Steven Donziger, you guys know, we interviewed him last week about the way that Chevron has persecuted him. For those of you who don't know the context of this story, he's a human rights lawyer. He won an unprecedented settlement against Chevron for their crimes against indigenous people in Ecuador. Chevron has not paid a single penny of the billion-dollar fine that was levied against them for poisoning and destroying this whole area. I mean, people got cancer, people died. It was a total crime and atrocity. They haven't paid a single penny. Instead, their strategy has been to make an example out of Steven Donziger, the successful lawyer who actually had a chance of holding them to account. And sad to say, they have been entirely successful in doing that. Steven has been locked in his house for more than 2 years on home confinement, wearing an ankle bracelet like he's some great global criminal for the crime, allegedly, of being held in contempt of court for not turning over his laptop that he did not want to turn over during discovery to protect his attorney-client privilege. So they got a corrupt judge who totally railroaded him. He's found guilty on this charge, a charge that he reminded us when we interviewed him last week, the day before his sentencing, no lawyer has ever spent a single day in prison for, okay? No one has ever spent a single day in prison.
In U.S. history.
In U.S. So this man's been locked in his home for 2 years. Sentencing happened last week on October 1st, and they sentenced him to 6 months in prison. Now, when I saw that news, I thought, okay, well, surely, when it first broke, I thought, well, surely they must have credited him for time served for these 2 years that he's been locked in his home. Nope. They did not credit him whatsoever. The judge went on some insane rant about him. The whole thing has been a total corporate prosecution. The Southern District of New York, they refused to prosecute him.
Yes.
The UN has come out and ruled that this is an illegal prosecution, that not only should he be released immediately, but that we should be paying him reparations for what we have done to this man. And instead, now he's spending 6 months in federal prison. For all the media people who pretended during the Trump years that they were so worried about creeping authoritarianism, about the end of our democracy, you don't care about this total corporate takeover of our judicial system? Tell me when you see a single cable news segment about this absolutely outrageous, atrocious crime that has been committed against this man and that is meant to send a message to all whistleblowers, to anyone who would hold the powerful to account. And it is outrageous and shocking and saddening that Chevron has gotten their way here, and they have made that example out of Steven Donziger that they wanted to.
Well, what's crazy too about the case, to people understand, is the people who prosecuted him was actually a private law firm that the judge brought in order to prosecute him. That law firm also has Chevron as a client. And so effectively, they're being paid to privately prosecute by the very people that have a judgment. At the very least, it's a conflict of interest. I also asked him, I was like, how do you go to prison without facing a jury? And it's contempt charges, which are less than 6 months in time, that is at the sole discretion at the judge. Now, look, on appeal and all this, is this all going to hold up? I have no idea. But by that time, he'll probably be out of prison.
Yeah.
And at this point, the man's been in his house in downtown Manhattan for like 2 years, and now is going to be in federal lockup for 6 months, which is pretty crazy. And again, even if he was guilty of sin, which, he disputes, whatever, I don't actually know the general facts on the contempt charge itself, even if he was guilty, probably shouldn't still go to prison.
This is
given
a misdemeanor.
The facts of the facts of the case. It's a, what is it? It's a first misdemeanor?
I think they call it a classy misdemeanor. It's the
classy
lowest
misdemeanor?
possible criminal charge you can have.
Lowest possible criminal charge, 6 months in prison, not facing a jury, being sentenced by a judge who had brought in actually the private prosecutors. All of this, I would say, is just complete nonsense. And it's like you said, if people are really worried about the appearance of corruption within our judicial system, which, oh, by the way, we brought you recently that story about 131 judges who forgot to recuse themselves from cases where they had a direct financial interest. A direct Wall Street Journal investigation found that, where sometimes judges had hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets in the very companies that they were delivering rulings on. Oh, and those rulings actually almost always broke in the favor of those companies, and therefore the judges' assets.
2/3 of the time, Saagar, let's be fair.
Sorry, yeah. Okay. 1/3, it's overwhelming. I'm just saying, coin flip, and you would have seen a little bit of a different thing. Random probability would tell you that it probably should be 50-50 whenever it comes to a real review. So, look, I would put this all together, and they say this is absolutely outrageous. And yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that we're the only ones really covering it. A few people, the media. I just saw a tweet actually from David Sirota. Punchbowl News, which we actually use some of their reporting sometimes because they have good congressional
Inside
reporting.
The Beltway, yeah.
Yeah, well, their newsletter this morning was presented by Chevron. Their news this morning presented by Chevron. Am I saying that it's a cover-up? No, but look, when people want to cover stuff or tweet something, you got to think about it. It's going to screw me whenever it comes to advertisers. There's a reason we fund our business the way that we do. So we don't have to have any sort of implication whatsoever. But Chevron and the people who they hire as ad people, those people control a whole lot of money whenever it comes to media buys and advertising. Is that part of the factor? I think we'd be lying if we said it wasn't.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Politico Playbook, which is like the insider journal newsletter, last week brought to you by Pharma. Brought to you by Pharma.
During the whole negotiation.
While
right.
Medicare negotiation prices and other relevant healthcare policies are being debated, and the DC newsletter, insider newsletter, is being brought to you by Pharma. Yeah, it is atrocious. And by the way, the Biden administration, they haven't said a word. All their concern about, democracy and the judicial system. Just imagine if it was Trump going after this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine the wall-to-wall coverage.
Yes.
But I think that's it. It's because you don't have, first of all, they don't really care about corruption, number one. Second of all, you don't have this blue-red horse race dynamic that they can sink their teeth into. And so, they don't, when it comes down to it, they don't really give a shit. All their concerns about the press fairness with Julian Assange, we see what nonsense that is. All their concerns about authoritarianism and the future sanctity of our democracy. They don't really care. This is a crime. It's an absolute outrage. Steven Donziger should be freed immediately. He never should have been confined in the first place. And the fact that this is getting so little attention and that the media doesn't care about it is a crime in and of itself.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.